Ever wonder what people believed before modern science? Can you imagine drinking gold to live forever? Did medieval doctors really think mice spontaneously generated from dirty laundry? Number 6. The Earth is flat. Or is it? Did everyone in the Middle Ages really think the Earth was flat? Contrary to popular belief, educated people in medieval times actually knew the Earth was round. This misconception about medieval flat earthers largely stems from 19th century writers who wanted to make the Middle Ages seem more primitive than they actually were. Medieval scholars like Thomas Aquinas and Roger Bacon understood the Earth's spherical shape. They inherited this knowledge from ancient Greek astronomers such as Aristotle and Ptolemy. Sailors navigated based on the understanding of a curved Earth, and medieval academics calculated the planet's circumference with surprising accuracy. However, the average medieval person probably didn't ponder Earth's shape much at all. Their world extended only as far as the next village or town. For them, the Earth appeared flat in everyday experience, much as it does to us today when we're not thinking scientifically. What's fascinating is that medieval maps weren't designed to be geographically accurate in the way we expect today. The famous TO maps placed Jerusalem at the center, with Asia, Europe, and Africa arranged around it in a T-shape, inside a circular O representing the ocean. These maps weren't meant for navigation, but instead illustrated a theological understanding of the world with Jerusalem as the spiritual center. Medieval people did have some wild ideas about what might exist at the Earth's edges. Though, tales of dog-headed men, people with faces in their chests, and other fantastic creatures supposedly lived in far-off lands. These beliefs came from ancient texts like Pliny's Natural History, and were repeated in medieval bestiaries and travel accounts like Sir John Mandeville's fantastical journeys. Regardless of whether they viewed Earth as round or flat, medieval people positioned it at the center of the universe. The Earth sat motionless while the sun, moon, planets, and stars revolved around it in perfect celestial spheres. This geocentric model seemed to match what people observed every day. The sun rising in the east and setting in the west, circling around a stationary Earth. Number 5. Spontaneous generation. Mice from dirty laundry and bees from dead bulls. Ever found mice in your home and wondered where they came from? Medieval people had an explanation. They spontaneously generated from dirty laundry and wheat. This wasn't just a bizarre folk belief, but a scientific theory accepted by the most educated minds of the era. The theory of spontaneous generation held that living organisms could arise from non-living matter. This idea traced back to Aristotle and remained scientific consensus until the experiments of Louis Pasteur in the 1860s. Medieval natural philosophers, drawing on ancient authorities, provided detailed recipes for creating life from inanimate materials. The 13th century scholar Albertus Magnus wrote that to produce mice, one should place a soiled shirt in a vessel containing grains of wheat. After 21 days, the wheat's fermentation, combined with the salt from human sweat, would transform the wheat into mice. The proof was simple. Where there's stored grain, mice appear seemingly from nowhere. Even more elaborate was the process called begonia for creating bees. Based on ancient Roman texts, medieval beekeepers believed they could generate new bee colonies from the carcass of a bull. The prescribed method involved beating a young bull to death without breaking the skin, blocking all its bodily openings with cloth, placing it in a wooden hut surrounded by thyme and cassia, and then waiting. The decaying matter would supposedly transform into bees, with the queen developing from the bull's brain and workers from its flesh. Eels presented another mystery. Since no one had observed eels mating or found eel eggs, Theories abounded about their origins. Some believed eels emerged spontaneously from mud, while others thought they developed from the dew that fell on certain springs during specific seasons. Some even suggested they formed from the hair of horses' tails that fell into water. Barnacle geese provided a particularly convenient case of supposed spontaneous generation. These birds breed in remote Arctic regions where Europeans rarely ventured, so no one had observed their nesting habits. Medieval natural philosophers concluded that barnacle geese grew from goose barnacles, marine crustaceans that attach to driftwood. The resemblance between the feathery filters of the barnacle and bird feathers seemed to confirm this connection. This belief had practical religious implications. Since barnacle geese supposedly grew from trees or barnacles, not flesh, some argued they could be eaten during Lent, when meat was forbidden. This loophole was eventually rejected by the Church, but not due to scientific objections, rather because the birds still looked and tasted like forbidden meat. Number 4. The doctrine of signatures, God's medical labels. Have you ever looked at a walnut and noticed it resembles a tiny brain? Medieval people did, and they took this as a divine hint about its medicinal use. This concept, known as the doctrine of signatures, suggested that God had marked plants with clues about their healing properties. According to this doctrine, plants that resembled body parts were divinely designed to treat ailments of those parts. The theory gained formal articulation during the Renaissance, but had roots in medieval medical practice. Swiss physician Paracelsus, 1493 to 1541, helped popularize this idea, writing, "Nature marks each growth according to its curative benefit." Walnuts, with their brain-like appearance, were prescribed for headaches and mental illnesses. Lungwort, displaying spots resembling lung tissue, treated pulmonary diseases. Kidney beans, shaped like yellow plants like saffron and dandelions, addressed jaundice and other liver problems due to their yellow color matching the symptoms. The doctrine extended beyond simple visual resemblance. Plants with milky sap, like dandelions and milkweed, were recommended to nursing mothers to increase milk production. Red plants and minerals treated blood disorders and wounds. Thorny plants alleviated sharp stabbing pains. One striking example was the mandrake root, which sometimes grows in a shape vaguely resembling a human figure. This human-like appearance made mandrake extremely valuable, prescribed for a range of conditions from infertility to pain relief. The harvesting process was surrounded by elaborate ritual, as the plant was believed to emit a fatal shriek when pulled from the ground. Collectors supposedly tied the plant to a dog, and then called the dog from a safe distance, allowing the animal to uproot the plant and absorb its deadly scream, while the harvester covered their ears. The doctrine of signatures linked with the medieval humoral theory of medicine, where diseases resulted from imbalanced bodily humors, blood, phlegm, yellow bile, and black bile. Treatments sought to restore balance through opposites. Cold illnesses required warm remedies, and dry conditions needed moist treatments. A plant's physical characteristics provided clues about which humor it affected. Interestingly, some plants identified through the doctrine of signatures do contain medically useful compounds, though not always for the conditions they were thought to treat. Modern pharmacology has confirmed medicinal properties in many traditional herbals, though working through different mechanisms than medieval physicians imagined. Number 3. The magical vegetable lamb of Tartary. Would you believe that cotton plants were once thought to grow sheep? The vegetable lamb of Tartary ranks among the strangest medieval botanical beliefs. This legendary plant-animal hybrid supposedly produced cotton-like balls that, when opened, revealed tiny lambs attached by their navels to the plant's stem. Accounts of this marvel first appeared in European literature around the 14th century, though the concept likely originated from misinterpreted travelers' tales about cotton cultivation in Central Asia. Europeans unfamiliar with cotton described it as vegetable wool, creating confusion when these descriptions reached medieval Europe. The mythical plant was said to grow in Tartary, a vague term for Central Asian regions including parts of modern Russia, Mongolia, and northern China. According to popular descriptions, the lamb plant grew atop a stalk, tethered by a flexible stem that allowed it to graze on surrounding vegetation. Once it had consumed all grass within reach, both plant and lamb would die. In his widely read 1357 travelogue The Travels of Sir John Mandeville, the author claimed, "There grew there in Tartary a wonderful tree which bore tiny lambs on the ends of its branches. These branches were so pliable that they bent down to allow the lambs to feed when they are hungry." Though Mandeville's travels were largely fictional, his accounts were treated as factual by many medieval readers. The vegetable lamb occupied a fascinating place in medieval thought as it blurred the line between plant and animal kingdoms. This ambiguity created philosophical dilemmas about its proper classification. Was it a plant that produced animals? An animal growing like a plant? These questions challenged the Aristotelian system that clearly separated plants from animals. Some scholars viewed the vegetable lamb as evidence of God's creative power and infinite variety. Others tried to explain it through natural processes, suggesting it represented an intermediate stage in the great chain of being that linked all creation from minerals up to humans and angels. When cotton plants finally reached Europe in the late medieval period, the vegetable lamb myth gradually faded. However, it persisted in natural history books well into the 17th century, with some writers still debating its existence. The Latin name, Planta tartarica barometz, was even assigned to this fictional species. Number 2. Alchemical elixirs and drinkable gold. Would you drink liquid gold if someone promised it would make you live forever? Medieval alchemists did exactly that in their quest for the elixir of life. Alchemy, a precursor to modern chemistry, sought to transmute base metals into gold and discover the secret to immortality. One of the most sought-after substances was potable gold, arum potable, believed to be the ultimate medicinal substance. Alchemists devoted tremendous effort to making gold drinkable, as ordinary gold couldn't be directly consumed. They developed complex processes to dissolve gold into liquids, creating solutions they claimed contained the metal's essence. The 13th century alchemist Arnauld of Villanova created a popular formula for potable gold by dissolving the metal in aqua regia, a mixture of nitric and hydrochloric acids, then adding various herbs and spices. The resulting concoction supposedly cured all diseases and prolonged life indefinitely. Other recipes involved dissolving gold in strong alcohols, mixing it with honey, or subjecting it to repeated heating and quenching. These golden elixirs commanded astronomical prices. King Edward IV of England reportedly paid the equivalent of tens of thousands of modern dollars for a small vial of potable gold. Even Pope Nicholas V kept a personal alchemist who prepared gold remedies for his ailments. Beyond gold, medieval alchemists worked with mercury, which we now know is highly toxic. They believed mercury's liquid metal properties made it the ideal base for creating the Philosopher's Stone, the legendary substance that could turn base metals into gold and grant eternal life. Many alchemists likely died from mercury poisoning while attempting to create these elixirs. Not all elixirs were metallic. The alkist, described as the universal solvent, supposedly dissolved any substance, including gold. Theoretically, it contained the pure essence of whatever it dissolved, making it a perfect medicine. The logical problem of what container could hold a universal solvent, since it would dissolve its container, didn't seem to trouble medieval alchemists. Medieval Arabic alchemist Jabir ibn Hayyan, known in Latin as Geber, described an elixir of projections that could transform thousands of times its weight in base metals into gold. This multiplication property made the elixir infinitely more valuable than gold itself. Alchemical remedies weren't limited to scholarly practitioners. Folk recipes for longevity included drinking rainwater collected during specific celestial alignments, consuming precious stone powders, or taking herbal concoctions prepared under particular astrological conditions. Number 1. The weird and wonderful Mizbil bestiary. Did medieval people really believe in unicorns that could only be captured by virgins? The answer is yes, along with a menagerie of other fantastical creatures documented in bestiaries, illustrated manuscripts cataloging both real and imaginary animals. Unicorns featured prominently in medieval bestiaries, described as wild horse-like creatures with a single horn possessing magical properties. According to the texts, unicorns could only be captured by a virgin maiden. When a pure young woman sat alone in the forest, the unicorn would approach, lay its head in her lap, and fall asleep, allowing hunters to capture or kill it. This unicorn-virgin connection took on Christian symbolism, with the unicorn representing Christ and the virgin representing Mary. The medical value of unicorn horn, actually narwhal tusk or rhinoceros horn, made it one of the most expensive substances in medieval Europe, believed to detect and neutralize poison. Unicorn drinking vessels were prized by nobility fearful of assassination. When Pope Clement VII fell ill, his physicians prepared a measured dose of powdered unicorn horn as medicine. Even as late as 1741, London pharmacies listed unicorn horn in their official inventory of medicinal substances. Another bestiary favorite was the barnacle goose, which supposedly grew on trees overhanging water or from barnacles attached to driftwood. When mature, these birds would drop into the water fully formed. This belief persisted because barnacle geese nest in remote Arctic regions, so Europeans never witnessed their normal reproduction. The basilisk, the king of serpents, killed with its gaze alone. According to medieval lore, a basilisk hatched from an egg laid by a rooster and incubated by a toad or snake. The only way to kill this creature safely was by showing it its own reflection, causing it to die from its reflected gaze. Weasels were said to be immune to the basilisk's deadly stare and could kill the creature safely. Perhaps the strangest bestiary entry was the barnacle tree, which supposedly grew sheep as fruit. According to descriptions, these trees produced gourd-like fruit, containing tiny lambs. When ripe, the fruit split open, allowing the fully formed lambs to drop down and begin grazing. This belief likely stemmed from garbled accounts of cotton plants from distant lands. The remora fish was believed to have the power to stop ships in their tracks. Medieval texts described how this small fish could attach itself to a vessel's hull and prevent it from moving despite full sails and favorable winds. This belief originated from actual observations of remora fish, which do attach to ships with their sucker-like dorsal fins, combined with unexplained instances of ships becoming becalmed. Medieval bestiaries weren't merely zoological texts, but served as moral and religious instruction. Each animal entry typically concluded with an allegorical meaning or moral lesson. The industrious beaver falsely believed to chew off its own testicles when pursued by hunters who wanted them for medicine, represented the virtue of sacrificing sinful parts to save one's soul. The phoenix, which self-immolated every 500 years to be reborn from its ashes, symbolized Christ's resurrection. The pelican, incorrectly thought to pierce its own breast to feed its young with its blood, represented Christ's sacrifice. These symbolic readings were often more important to medieval readers than the factual descriptions. Do these medieval beliefs seem outlandish compared to modern science? Would you have believed in unicorns and vegetable lambs if you lived then? What strange beliefs might future generations find in our modern understanding of the world?